If you have type 2 diabetes and you're tired of being told it's chronic and something you'll just have to manage forever, if your A1C is controlled but your medication list keeps growing or stays the same, and you know deep down you're capable of more than this, you're in the right place. This is the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast. We're Brian Bisher and Corey Jenks, two pharmacists who spent over 2 decades inside healthcare. And we started this show because we got tired of watching capable people stuck getting managed instead of rebuilt. Here's what most people aren't told. Type 2 diabetes isn't just a blood sugar problem, it's a muscle and energy storage problem. When your body loses strength and metabolic flexibility, blood sugar rises, and you can rebuild that. On this show, we break the scripts that say more meds are inevitable, you're destined to just manage, remission isn't possible, and instead we teach you how to build muscle, eat in a way that keeps you full, and regain control of your health again. No extremes, no shame, just practical strategies to help you move toward remission and lead your health again. Let's get to work.
Welcome to another edition of the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast. Brian is not here with me. He's off playing in the pool with his kids somewhere because I have someone way more interesting than him. And that's the joke. Every time Brian is not on the show and I have a guest, they're always more interesting than him. Brian has been pushed aside today because we have Ben Gougeon, who is an arts administrator, actor, director, and theater producer. And you may have seen him in The Marvelous Miss Maisel, Law & Order SVU, The Blacklist, a multitude of commercials, or on stages across the country. And these days, Ben lives in the Midwest with his wife and kids, where he continues acting, works in the arts, and, most importantly for today's conversation, has made some remarkable improvements in his blood sugar. Ben, welcome to the Diabetes Remission Roadmap podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me here, Corey. I'm pleased to be here.
All right. I think we should just hop in. Tell us your story. Before you found our podcast, you mentioned remarkable improvements in blood sugar. So what was going on with your blood sugar, your diabetes? Want to hear where we're starting and where you can get to today.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm very new to this game. I first got my diagnosis in late March of this year.
Okay, record this in July of 2026. So yes. March of 26. So yeah, very new.
March of 26. And one thing that really struck me and was very informative with what you guys have talked about was talking about those 7-minute meetings with your doctor where you're supposed to get everything and know what to do. And I had been given a pre-diabetes diagnosis at my yearly physical the previous March and thought, it's pre. I didn't really know anything or what that actually meant. And so when I went in this March and I had an A1C of, it wasn't off the charts, it was 6.9 and my glucose was 149. And he said, you've tipped the scale now and now you're in diabetes. And he originally said, I'm going to put you on 500 milligrams of metformin and we'll check again in a few months. And I went home and just did a little Googling and online research and called him back and said, can we skip the medicine for now? And let me try to do this with diet and exercise. And I started looking for resources and I found you guys. And because I was like, I want something to listen to while I'm driving around. And I found you guys and started to adapt the principles that you guys espouse. And I'm the first to admit I'm not perfect in it. But you guys also hammer home it's progress, not perfection. So I had my 3-month checkup with my doctor at the end of June of 26, and my A1C was down to 5.0.
Wow.
And I've dropped about 55 pounds. And obviously it's working.
Great. I want to go back to last year, actually. So you mentioned the pre-diabetes diagnosis. And I think what a lot of people are probably going to identify with you is that 7-minute rush appointment. I don't know what this means. Like pre-diabetes, I'm pre-approved for a credit card. There's good pre's. This is obviously not something the doctor's like, you're pre-diabetic, way to go, right? But I have 13 more patients to see today. So don't tip into diabetes. Good luck, goodbye, move more, or eat less, move more. Is that pretty much
diet,
what you got?
exercise, which, I've yo-yoed up and down with weight my whole life. So I've heard, diet and exercise all the time. So it did not register as anything more urgent than that.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to as well, is that the hard part with diabetes, and I would like to hear your feeling or experience with this, is there's no sense of urgency. Your blood sugar doesn't tick up to pre-diabetes and you're like, ouch, it hurts. It's a silent epidemic. Really, 1 in 2 people in the United States have pre diabetes or diabetes. So
Yeah.
is that the lull of it's pre-diabetes, but it doesn't hurt?
Yeah. And I obviously was cognizant of having put on some weight and feeling lethargic. And there were symptoms there, but I didn't know that they were the symptoms I should have been paying attention to.
Okay. Yeah.
And so there wasn't an alarm bell other than just looking in the mirror and being like, oh, I got it. And it was funny because in my doctor's appointment before the one in March where I got my diagnosis, before the blood results came back, I had said to him, like, some of my other things were looking good. And I said, this is next. And I patted my belly, but it was too late.
Great. I'm curious. You mentioned you're not perfect and nobody is perfect. Whatever endeavor we're going after, you're an actor.
Yeah.
There's multiple ways to approach a scene. There's different ways to prepare. Some people are gifted. I've done some acting or tried to do some acting, and it's really hard, folks. So if you've ever get in front of a camera and you're like, why is this movie so bad? When you see it done really well, you can appreciate because I've done it really bad. So what are you doing? What are the things you're doing to get this progress over perfection that's gotten you down 2% of your A1C, that's helped you lose 50, 55 pounds? What is your secret?
Yeah. So what I ended on, and there was certainly a few weeks of trial and error and experimenting, but I do a fairly low carb, low to no processed or added sugar diet. And then I mix in some intermittent fasting with that. And then I walk every day after dinner. That's definitely a non-negotiable for me, minute walk. And typically about twice a week, I'll do a 10 to 15 minute kettlebell exercise. The thing that was really important to me, and my wife and I talked through this, was like, I'm someone who you have a problem. It's okay, I'm going to fix it right now. And it's like, okay, I need to get the gym membership. I need to do all these things. And we talked about the realities of that. And we have 3 kids and they're all busy. And so it's okay, what are the things I can do that are going to fit into our current lifestyle? And I would say an average day for me, like food wise, I played around with the intermittent fasting, and typically I'll eat between 10:30 and 6:30 every day. So I'll hold off on breakfast till 10:30, but typically for me, I chose not to go completely no carb. And so I'll do something like overnight oats in the morning, like especially during the week, because it's something I can very quickly prep the night before, or even if I'm up at 5:30 or 6, I can make, and then they're prepped and ready by 10:30 when I first eat. So I'll do overnight oats, and then maybe my lunch is a salad, or if I'm on the go, my job a lot, am running around and doing different things, but it's things like string cheese and almonds, or there's the Fairlife protein shakes,
Yes, the core
which I found have not affected my blood sugar. And I know some people it does. And then for dinner, I go with the diabetic plate method, and I'll have some protein. And I use a lot of times just like frozen, like heat them up in the microwave veggies, because it's easy. And it's not something that I think a lot of times, and I've done other kind of diets and things to lose weight before, and it was never sustainable, because I was either doing too much prep work, or they were like meal replacement diets that you guys talk about satiety.
Yeah. Feeling full.
Satiety.
Yeah. The fancy word.
Satiety all the time. And it's like, they were never things that left me satisfied. I just felt starving all day.
Yeah.
And for me, focusing on those proteins and things that do have a healthier fat content have been really helpful, where I'm not just thinking about when am I going to eat all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. A few things that really stuck out to me that I hope as you're listening, you can take away with this is you're allowed to pick the easy route that works for you. Frozen vegetables are your friend. Bagged lettuce is your friend. I think meal prepping can be many different things. It could be spending all Sunday cooking for the whole week, which I have 3 kids ourselves, and there's just no time. No one told you how much time it would suck. The joy it brings you and the time it sucks away from you, right? So
Yeah.
pick the easy route, use the crock pot. To me, meal prepping it could be the hours in the kitchen, or it could be just spending 10 minutes writing down a list of groceries that are easy for you to prepare in a small amount of time. Meal prep is multifaceted. You said it best, it had to fit your life. If you had to
Yeah.
be chained to a gym and stuck inside a kitchen, you can't go live and do the things you love to do. And the whole point of this is to build your health so you could do the things you like to do.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate something you just pointed out. In that first week or so after I got my diagnosis and was like, okay, I need to change. Like, I was just researching and reading and put together like a pretty big list of, okay, these are safe foods. These are the foods I can eat. And then figured out things that were going to work for me out of that list. I still don't feel most of the time, there's still moments, but I don't feel like I'm denying my things. It's, oh, I have all these things to pick from. And these are the things that I've got.
Yeah. And as you say, it does not have to be perfect. I think breakfast is a really important baseline meal because one, it sets you up energetically for the day. If you have a donut, you're going to be hungry, you're going to be tired, your sugar's going to be spiking and crashing. And another thing that I like to think about is if you eat a donut for breakfast, anything that isn't yummy for lunch is going to be super disappointing. You're like, I started my day with the dopamine hit. Everything else is a mess. I think you're giving our listeners a lot of permission to just give yourself some grace, find what works for you. And you mentioned you didn't want to eliminate all carbs. Overnight oats, for you, they've helped you meet your goal. They're easy. They help you prepare. For someone else, sometimes oatmeal spikes their sugar, but you also mentioned the Fairlife shakes, the Core Power. So one of my favorite on-the-go beverages is, you said people where it spikes their sugar. It doesn't for you. Great. You've learned that about yourself. It's okay if something works for you and not somebody else. This is about experimentation. And it sounds like you spent a lot of time figuring out what works for your sugar and your life.
Yeah. And that's something too. Like I'm very curious about I've read lots of things in chat groups and things about people talking about the progression of the disease. And this may be something that in a few years doesn't work and I'll probably have to adjust. I can't predict the future. And like I said at the beginning, I'm very new to this, but
Quick pause for a second. If you're finding the podcast helpful and you want more practical ideas to help move your blood sugar in the right direction, come follow us on Instagram at Diabetes Remission Partners. We share quick tips, food and exercise insights, and blood sugar mistakes people don't even realize they're making. It's also where we can answer your questions directly in the DMs. So if you want more help between episodes, Instagram at Diabetes Remission Partners is the best place to find us. And when you follow us, make sure to say hi. All right, back to the show.
the numbers have borne out to me. Last night after dinner, we had a little dinner and there was more carbs than I normally eat for dinner and what we had made for the family, but I took a very small portion of it and did my walk after dinner, and I tested my blood sugar after that and it was 80.
Yeah.
So it was like, that worked.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we've had some email exchanges back and forth. I'll challenge you as you move forward to incorporate more of the strength training. I think that's going to help make it more durable, but this is not to nitpick. You, in 3 to 4 months, just transformed your health and your outlook. So was there a moment when you realized, oh my gosh, this is actually working?
Yeah, for me, it was always, I was just kind of waiting for that 3-month checkup and to get the A1C. I was kind of testing my blood sugar all along, and I was seeing my resting blood sugar, especially when I started incorporating the fasting, and I was seeing that kind of baseline fasting number go down. And that was probably 4 to 6 weeks in.
Okay. Yeah.
And even the immediate diet changes, though, brought that down from where it was when I got tested, which was at 149. Originally, it was hitting in the low 100s, 1-teens, and then it slowly just kept going. Oh, I'm 94 in the morning. I'm 88 in the morning. I'm 79 or 80 in the morning. And being able to see that progress was really inspiring as well. I'm an actor. I have some vanity about me. So seeing the number on the scale go down was always.
Yeah, of course. And I think that's something to realize too, is we have to try to find every win that we can. And when we're working with clients, sometimes those fasting numbers can be a little bit delayed coming down, but the post meals come down, or the weight is delayed coming down, but the clothes are fitting looser because you're losing visceral fat and gaining muscle. And so tell me if you think about this, but I think you have to find little wins along the way to keep you going. Because you mentioned 4 to 6 weeks until you saw a big drop, 3 months until you have an A1C. We're not good at looking to the future and delaying gratification. We want to see something happening right now.
And that's, I think, what has been, because as I said, I've done kind of weight loss programs before, but it's always been like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And then slowly a week or two after your program ends, then it's, oh, now I'll just introduce this back into the diet. I'm going to introduce this back in. And then suddenly a year later, you've put on all the weight plus. And I wasn't testing my blood sugar then, but I'm sure it wasn't,
It was teetering.
not helping it. There are a few things that have kept me on track. A, seeing the progress. B, shameless plug, listening to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
And like having kind of that, but having that constant reminder of myself of, no, I'm diabetic. I need to like put diabetic resources in my life so that I retain awareness and don't say, yeah, listen to a few episodes, I got it, and then don't think about it anymore. But also just the energy that I regained on a day-to-day basis of just not feeling lethargic and loaded and stuffed all the time, being able to be more active and play with my kids rather than, oh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
That has kept me going, and also a deadly fear of needles.
Sure.
That I just don't want to get to that point.
Great. Hey, I think those are all healthy. A healthy fear of needles is okay if we want to avoid insulin and things like that. But a couple of things, I think the reminders from us, thank you for the shameless plug. If someone's listening, you're already listening. So keep listening, subscribe, and leave us a nice review. But what Brian and I like to talk about a lot is our environment. And we talk about our food diet, but I think the consumption of what we watch and listen to can have a big effect on us as well. I think if you're around a group of people who, if you have a family history of diabetes and and I've seen this countless time in my clinic, my dad had it, my mom had it, my sister has it, I'm just doomed to it. And we talk about it all the time and we compare medicines. You're putting yourself in an environment that's inevitable. But if you're willing to, as you said earlier, also get curious, investigate, is there another way? Is there something beyond the 7-minute doctor's appointment where I can go and improve myself without having to take metformin, be stuck on a pill, etc.? Of course, I'm going to plug our podcast, but I think it's information, but I think it's also environment that it's helping you create as well. And then the other piece, we talked about it earlier, like the whole goal of this is to live a great life. And to hear that you have energy to play with your kids, like that's, I think, what makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside is, yeah, your A1C is better, you're reducing your risk of complications, but on a day-to-day basis, you're showing up more for the people that matter in your life. And I think that's what this is all about, is how can we be fitter, stronger, healthier, so that instead of sitting at a pharmacy or a doctor's office or in a recliner, we're up and living life and getting the most out of the life we have.
Yeah. And that my maternal grandparents, and they've both passed on now, but they were, and it wasn't diabetes, but it was, my grandfather was a very heavy smoker. And the whole time before they passed that I knew them growing up, they spent their whole lives, like we went to doctor's appointments. When I went to visit them, it was going to doctor's appointments. And I don't want to be 65 and just spending my time going to doctor's appointments because my health is in such poor shape.
Yeah. I think something is great that you took action. Jay from the Girl Coach was a guest on before, and he delayed action a little bit, but took it pretty heavily and things improved really quickly. For yourself, it was a year of a pre-diabetes diagnosis and getting the diabetes diagnosis, you took action right away and you're seeing big improvements. And if you're listening and it's been a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, the timeline of seeing improvements like Ben has had, it's going to be different for everybody. And so really going back to, as you start implementing changes, if you can see the little wins and celebrate those, understanding that if it took a decade for you to develop and continue to have diabetes, it's not going to just reverse itself overnight, but it takes that consistent, imperfect, but consistent effort. Ben, your story is inspiring.
Thanks. You guys are inspiring.
Well, thank you. Yeah, my kids are 3, 6, and 8. So I'm tired at the end of the day, even with feeling pretty healthy because they don't sleep good and I'm running around all the time, especially on summer vacation. It's Camp Dad right now as we record this. But if someone's listening and they're feeling overwhelmed by diabetes, their diagnosis, the lack of care from the doctors, what would you tell that person listening who's feeling overwhelmed right now?
Progress, not perfection. And you guys, the episode of yours I was listening to the other day talked about find those little wins and the little steps you can take. If it's switching to diet soda or to water to drink, or some of the little things I've done. There's been days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want a bag of chips. And I'll get pork rinds instead because
Okay.
it doesn't have the carb load. It's
Hey.
got other things,
Yeah.
but so finding those
The least,
compromise.
yeah, the less bad option.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Progress over perfection, and just try to find those little wins. And we, in our diabetes coaching program, we have a client who's been with us for several months. The other day, she's having insomnia. And so she just
Yeah.
was like, instead of scrolling Netflix, I'm going to just write down everything that I've learned or implemented. And it was like 2 pages front and back. And it's that
Yeah.
realization that it's all these small things stacked up over time that you do. I think people often want to look for the silver bullet, like the one magic thing or the magic pill, the magic shot. And then the magic is the consistency, which you're clearly showing up every day with.
Yeah. And that's, I think one other thing is that when you start it, if you ease into it, that was easier for me because I'm not where I am now with kind of the way I eat, where I was when I first started. I didn't jump in and day one go, I'm intermittent fasting, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. For the first month or so, I was still eating maybe 5 or 6 times a day, but healthier choices. And then gradually just stack things together one at a time so that it wasn't an overload of, I'm completely transforming my entire life right now.
Yeah, as someone with 3 kids, there's just no opportunity to completely transform your life. Back in college, I just remembered, I had a goal, I'd knock it out. It's like I was single and I had nothing else to do but go to class. This is easy. So I think that and knowing your personality, I think it's like going to example of smoking is if you smoke 2 packs a day and you can cut to 1 pack a day before you quit totally, great. That's progress. If you don't have to, if it's 2 packs or nothing, smoke 1 less cigarette a day, eat 1 less meal a day, have 1 more minute of walking a day. Let that build for you. And I think our healthcare system's built to throw the kitchen sink at you in 7 minutes. It's like you have to eat better, move. Here's a medicine. Here's testing supplies, and here's the door. I'll see you in 3 to 6 months. And so it's when you think about how oftentimes when we try to make a giant overhaul, we fail, we blame ourselves, we feel bad, there's shame. It's this terrible spiral where you feel bad about yourself and don't get better. So I love your advice of just start where you are, make some changes, keep making changes, keep adjusting, and then you'll wake up 3 months later with 50 pounds less to carry around and 2% less of an A1C. So Ben, this is incredible. I love hearing this. Yeah.
Again, I can't thank you guys enough. And I searched on Spotify and you popped up, and you guys have completely helped me get this under control.
Great. We're thrilled to hear it. We're going to keep showing up for you. I know you're going to keep showing up for yourself, for your family. And before we get out of here, you have a lot of cool stuff you do in your life. And I would love for you to share if someone's listening to this, and even if they just want to reach out to you and be like, hey, that was inspiring. Thank you. Or wherever we can find you as an actor or doing what you're doing, please share where people can find you. And then you'll give me all the links to share with our listeners in the show notes too.
Yeah, I'm on all the socials at BD Gougeon. Good luck spelling it.
We'll have your name in we'll have your last name Gougeon in the show description. You don't have to pull your car over and write that down. You can look at it later.
Yeah, and then I also host a podcast that's about an art-focused podcast called Talking Art that you can find on Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube and all the places. And then I'm going to be in a production of Death of a Salesman in Moline, Illinois. If anyone's in Moline, come see that.
Send me the dates for that. I will. That's one of my favorite plays. So I would love
it. Mine. I couldn't pass up the chance to audition for it. So I'm very excited.
All right, folks, this has been Ben Gougeon, super inspiring. And until next time, keep it simple and do what works.
If this episode gave you clarity or hope, share it with one friend who's been stuck in the diabetes trap. That's how this mission grows. One person, one family, one story at a time. And if you haven't yet, leaving a quick review helps more people find the show and realize they're not stuck with meds forever. It takes less than a minute and it means the world to us. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being part of this movement toward freedom. Thanks for listening to the Diabetes Remission Roadmap. The ideas discussed here are for general informational purposes only and do not constitute medical or nutritional advice. We are pharmacists, but we're not your personal healthcare providers. Always consult your own physician or qualified clinician before changing medications, exercise routines, or nutrition plans. Results vary, and what works for one person may not work for another.